Hey girl, my name is Anel. Welcome to the Brave in Her podcast, where we inspire, empower, and motivate by sharing our stories of bravery. I strongly believe that by sharing our stories, we open ourselves to healing, but also serve to give hope and inspiration to those who are dealing with a tough situation. We will talk about all topics under the sun. Now let's hear your stories of bravery. Hey girl, thank you for being here. In today's episode, I have Courtney Bussard, and she is the host of Journey to Limitless. She's an advocate for mental and physical health, and she is an ulcerative colitis warrior, and she is adventurous. Hi, Courtney. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Thank you for having me on your show today.
Thank you for being here and, willing to share your story, because I know your story can help a lot of women out there.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for the opportunity. And I do believe that it's important to talk about these things to help other people.
Yes. So you're here today to talk to us about your journey with I don't know why I can pronounce it, ulcerative colitis. And but before we start, and before you share your journey, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you a little bit more?
Sure. So my name's Courtney, obviously. I live in Colorado, but I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. I moved out to Colorado back in 2016, and I moved here just because I absolutely love the mountains and traveling, and that's always been a huge passion of mine. Other than traveling, I spin hula hoops. I'm a movement artist. I am an advocate for mental and physical health, obviously, and movement is super important in my life because it's helped me with my mental health and physical health. Other than that, I'm a dog mom. I am a nanny. I'm a very, very busy person, and keeping busy honestly helps me a lot in my life. So I do a lot of different things.
That's awesome. So do you want to start by telling us, what were the symptoms that, you started having, and at what point did you realize, okay, this is not normal, I need to go see a doctor?
So starting in about the beginning of 2019, I was having a lot of anxiety issues. I just really did not have any stress management techniques. And around this time, I started to have pain in my abdomen area. And I was also just having a lot of digestive symptoms, such as blood in my stool, and just started to feel a little bit lightheaded because of the blood loss. And that's when I knew I needed to go see a doctor, because obviously that's not normal. And I was having a lot of urgency as well. And it took me a few months to get diagnosed. They thought I had IBS, and I was treated for that. And being treated for IBS and a form of IBD is very, very different. So it took me. So I went to the doctors back in May, and I didn't get a diagnosis until August.
So you said there's a difference between IBD and IBS. What were those differences, like in terms of the treatment that you received? What were the treatment, and what was the difference?
So IBS, they treated me they were telling me that I needed to add in some fiber to my diet. Whereas with IBD, that is not something that you should do. When you are having symptoms with IBD, you actually need to have a very bland diet and not much fiber at all. And they were breaking down all the different types of fiber. I can't remember on the top of my head. It's what is it? There's all different types of fiber that is easier to digest than others. And they were just giving me a list of all the different ones to add in. And that was making my symptoms a lot worse. And when I was diagnosed with IBD, which is, a form of, ulcerative colitis is a form of IBD, I was then told to not eat any of the stuff that they told me to eat.
So essentially, they were hurting you, or whatever you were doing was hurting you instead of helping you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you were diagnosed, how did you feel? Like, what was your mental state at that time?
So I went in for a colonoscopy, and as soon as I woke up from my procedure, my doctor told me that I was going to be on prednisone for the rest of my life. And he didn't even tell me that I had ulcerative colitis. He was going to run me through all these other tests to, determine which form of IBD I had. And I was so scared because prednisone is not a medication that you should ever be on for the rest of your life. And I felt like the doctor wasn't giving me any. I had to look up foods to eat on my own. He didn't tell me a
Wow.
diet. He didn't tell me really anything. It's just throwing a medication in my face. And it scared me really bad. I ended up, trying to heal this on my own. And honestly, I was having a lot of mental health struggles as well. Like I said, with, my anxiety and my depression. So I was seeing my therapist, and she was more helpful to me than a doctor. And at that time, I was really scared to go to another doctor because I was literally just told, that I was going to be on medication that I wasn't, should not have been on for the rest of my life. So I tried to heal it on my own. I was taking supplements such as ashwagandha, and I was just trying to, reduce my stress levels to help me heal. And it didn't work over
I could
time.
just imagine how frustrating that might have been, where your doctor's just telling you you just have to take this medication, but it's not helping you much. Like, what else can you do? What else, not like, I guess, quote unquote, natural you can do to, to help you feel better and not, damage more or not do more damage than what's already been done.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just what I was trying to do. I switched doctors, and didn't go to another GI doctor. I just started seeing a more natural primary care doctor who was,
Mm-hmm.
putting me on blood builders and more supplements versus medication. And I was really trying to, let that work for me before I went to a medication.
Yeah. I'm totally the same way. Like, I prefer going the natural route than taking medication. But I do take prednisone because I have a kidney transplant. So I've taken prednisone for the past 24 years, and I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's something that I guess people shouldn't be taking for so long. And some of us, I guess, don't have like an option, right? So if you have an option, that's great. Um, so what have been your challenges since being diagnosed? So you were diagnosed. What have you? You said you were diagnosed in 2019. So just recently, like, it hasn't been a long time, but it's only been a year or two. What have been your challenges since then?
Well, after my diagnosis, it got a lot worse. Back in December of last year, so 2019, I finally caved and I went on prednisone because I was not functioning. I was literally almost passing out every single day from so much blood loss. I was in agonizing pain. I could not really walk at this point. I couldn't even walk my dog
Wow.
around the block because I was in that much pain. And so I finally went on prednisone, started to see another doctor. And at this point, just as another little backstory, another reason why, I'm such an advocate for mental and physical health and stress management was because at this time, I was living alone, trying to afford an apartment in downtown Denver, trying to work 4 jobs. I was a hula hoop teacher. I worked 2 serving jobs just to afford this apartment. And I was not allowing myself time to heal. So my disease significantly progressed and got worse. So by December, I was passing out, almost passing out. I never actually passed out, but I was severely depleted. I was doing iron infusions. I was, doing all these different things to try to bring myself back to life a little bit more. And in January of 2020, I ended up in the hospital because at this point I was also dealing with a lot of insurance issues as well. And I was not able to get medication. And once I finally got the medication, my disease progressed so much that the medication wasn't working for me. By the time I got to the hospital, I was on an IV for magnesium, potassium, and fluids. And I was really close to needing, I was like 0.02 away from needing a blood transfusion. And
Wow.
that was definitely I wouldn't even say that that was the lowest point. I think the days leading up to that I was in pain for 36 hours straight, and a colonoscopy determined that my disease progressed. I now had pancolitis, which meant that my entire large intestine was now inflamed. So
Wow.
immediately when I woke up from that procedure, they said that I was going to be on Humira, which I am still on Humira, and thankfully I've been in remission since March. But after that hospital visit, I had to leave Colorado and move back home to Maryland, and that time allowed me to heal and rest and not worry about paying for an apartment. And yeah, I just was able to allow myself time to heal.
That's good, because that's really important. The healing part, it's very crucial, and being able to rest and take care of yourself is extremely important. And I think what a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people, I should say, people that have never gone through a chronic illness, is all the struggle since, diagnosed to, could be through, throughout your whole life, right? Because a chronic illness is never really going to go away. There's no cure, right? But the struggle of, worrying about medication, worrying about insurance and doctors and all that could be, really bad for your mental health. And it's not just like surviving, just your apartment like just anybody else, right? Or paying the bills. But on top of paying your apartment and paying your bills, you also had to worry about medication. And just how it happened to you, you weren't able to afford your medication and you were having problems with your insurance. Your illness progressed when it could have been prevented with just a simple, just getting medication.
Mm-hmm. And I think a huge thing that I dealt with in the beginning of being diagnosed was denial and grief. And, a part of me was grieving because I've always been, I'm a traveler. I am a very free spirit, and having a chronic illness, that's a part of me that honestly, I haven't seen in a while because I can't be as carefree as I used to be. I have to watch what I eat. I have to watch my sleep. My sleep, I value more than anything else these days. And, chronic illness changed me. And, I'm honestly so grateful that I'm in remission, but it's like, if in order for me to stay in remission, my life had to change. There are a lot of things that I can't do anymore because of having a chronic illness. And yeah, I feel like when you are diagnosed with a chronic illness, there's like different phases of accepting it, and that hits people in so many different ways, and it's important to be kind to yourself. I think kindness to yourself is key to having a chronic illness.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just being kind to yourself and being forgiving of, one day you feel okay, you feel fine, you can do whatever, whatever you want, right? And then the next day, it's kind of like your body's mad at you. Mm-hmm. And you don't feel well. And, when you have those days, my only advice to you is, forgive yourself, because your body is going to be tired because it's dealing with so much. So just be patient with your body and just don't get frustrated, and don't let that, it's easier said than done, but don't let that get to you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that is huge, really, because the more you let it get to you, the more it's probably going to affect you. Like if you just kind of, at some point it sucks to say, but sometimes you have to just accept it and say, and understand that, for me, I believe that my chronic illness taught me to slow down, and it taught me a lot of lessons. And, obviously I wish that it never happened, but in the long run, it's like, I've always been a very go person. And my chronic illness really has taught me, like, Court, you cannot run yourself into the ground and expect yourself to function. It just doesn't work that way. So,
yeah. And going back to what you said, that, since being diagnosed, you've had to change your life, and there's certain things that you can do that you cannot do, and then other things that you can. I would say also, like, don't focus on things that you cannot do anymore, but focus on like the positive. Like, what is this journey bringing to you? Like your podcast.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. Is like, yeah, there, I can't go out partying with my friend. I'm only 26, and I can't go out partying all the time, and I can't stay up till 2 a.m. But it's like, I get up in the morning now, I work out. Thankfully I'm able to work out now, and I will never take that for granted again. And I do. I would not have a podcast. I would not be here talking to you right now if it wasn't for having a chronic illness. And yeah, I think it's important to look at some of the lessons that it's taught me. And I show more, and it's funny because I never would have thought I would ever show gratitude. Like, if you would have told me this time last year that I would be sitting here being grateful for being sick, I would have laughed, because that was not my mindset at the time. But now I can turn it around and be like, oh, that happened because I needed to learn these lessons. And it's gifted me, it's gifted me a lot of great things in my life, that I wouldn't have had.
Right. So with your podcast and everything, how else have you coped with dealing with your illness? Is what are the things that you're doing different from before? It could be like, now you practice yoga, or I think you mentioned that you see a therapist, which it's great. I think everyone that deals with a chronic illness should be seeing a therapist, just because it's a lot. It's honestly a lot to deal with a chronic illness. But what other things do you do to cope with just dealing with your illness?
So back in July, one of my friends, my close friends, she was a Beachbody coach. So I joined Beachbody because I honestly, from being on prednisone, I just really wasn't feeling that good. I was having a lot of joint pain, and I felt that like moving my body, as much as it sucks at first, getting into the habit of it, I knew in the long run it would be good for me. And yeah, I work out. I try to, I'm a movement artist, so I spin hula hoops, and that has always been a great way for me to be creative with my movement and get out of my head and into my body a bit more. And I talk about that a lot in my podcast. But this past weekend I went for a hike, and I move my body now because I'm so grateful to be able to do that again. And that is a huge way that I cope with having a chronic illness. And on days that I feel like I need to rest, I try to do that. I mean, obviously I'm really busy right now, but I'm learning that it's okay to rest. And I just try to be more kind to myself when I do need to rest. And I value my rest.
Yeah, I think that's key right there. The rest, just to give your body that rest that it needs to recover every day, because what it truly, what it goes through every single day, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know what happens if I don't rest. Because last year I probably had one day off for, in a whole month. And that's not okay. And, if anybody is functioning that way, maybe try to think about that. And I mean, obviously I don't wish chronic illness on anybody. I want everybody to be as healthy as they can be. But I think that it makes such a difference to allow yourself to rest. Rest is where you recover, and rest, I think, can be a preventative measure in your chronic illness, flaring up or getting worse.
Yeah. And it's also important to just take that as a priority, and, to not pay attention to what other people say. I've had to learn to like, just realize that other people that have never gone through a chronic illness, they don't know what it's like. So when they see you resting, it could be, some weeks could be more that you need more rest than others. And that does not make you lazy at all. Like, that does not mean you're lazy. It just means that your body has gone through so much that it just needs rest.
It's necessary. I mean, last year when I was going through the worst of my chronic illness, I was canceling plans all the time. And I probably looked like such a flake to people in my life. But then that's when you just have to explain to people, like, look, I can do this thing, but after I do it, I'm probably not going to feel well. So it's important for me to, just stay in tonight and take this time to rest. And I want to feel my best self, and how I can come back is by resting.
Yeah. And that's one of the mistakes I made, to just allow people to, not allow, but let people believe that I was just a flake, other than, telling them the truth that, like you said, if I go out today or if I do this today, I won't feel good tomorrow. Or maybe I'm already not feeling good, and, I can make, going to have lunch or have dinner or whatever. And I just let them think that. And I think it's very important, for us to just speak up and, say, how we're feeling, because I think that was a mistake I made, right? Like, not speaking up, and people have a different perspective, but they don't know the truth. And I think that's why a lot of people don't understand what it's like to go through a chronic illness, because oftentimes we stay quiet and we don't speak up. And so how can they know how we feel, what we go through, if we don't talk about it?
Right. And that's honestly a huge reason of why I am such an advocate for physical health, and I am open about my chronic illness. I mean, obviously, like, it's a digestive disease. It's not something that, I ever would have thought that I would talk about openly, but I feel like it's important. And I think it's important to let go of the stereotypes that come with chronic illness. Like, we're not lazy. We're not, just because you can't see our illness, if it's, an invisible illness, doesn't mean that it's not there, and doesn't mean that it doesn't affect us every day. There were so many times where, when I lost a lot of weight, people were like, "Oh, you look so good." I'm like, you have no idea that how much suffering I am in. I cannot eat. So, people just don't know, and I think it's important, to bring awareness to it.
Yeah. So what would you tell, that woman who has just been diagnosed with a chronic illness? Like, what advice would you give them?
To be kind to yourself, and to understand that it's okay to, like I said, with a chronic illness, sometimes you will feel different feelings. You'll feel denial, you'll feel grief, and just recognizing that and knowing that you're not alone, and it's okay to grieve, your old life that depending on the severity of your illness, like, it's okay to grieve your old life, and it's okay to worry, but, just try to be kind to yourself and reach out to people. There are so many communities for chronic illness, especially like in Facebook groups. I'm in a lot of different IBD support groups. And I think it's important to, if there's going to be people in your life that don't understand, but find the people that do.
Yes, you gave really good advice. I agree with what exactly what you said about finding a support group. And if you can find something specific to your specific illness, find a support group for chronic illness, because like me and you, even though we don't have the same illness, we have gone through similar just experiences in terms of side effects and just the day-to-day things that we go through with our chronic illnesses. And I think we can understand each other, even though, like I said, we don't have the same illness. And also, I wanted to add that it's okay to feel every single emotion. It's okay to feel sad. It's completely okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel happy. It's okay to feel, I don't know, any any feeling that you have, it's completely valid because
100%.
your body is going through so much, through a lot. It could be, pain. It could be, internal bleeding. It could be, anything. If you have a chronic illness, your body's going through a lot. And like you said, be kind to your body.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's huge. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of anger and I was getting mad at myself for feeling these feelings. But yes, as you say, your feelings are so valid when something, when this happens and you have to make these changes in your life. It's understandable.
Yes. Do you have a word, song, or quote, or a Bible verse that keeps you going? Like, in those days where you just feel like throwing the towel and you don't want to keep going, what is that one word, Bible verse or song or poem or whatever? What is that one thing that keeps you going?
So it is Shake It Out by Florence and the Machine. I love Florence and the Machine so much. And last year when I remember I was driving home from something on my birthday last year and I almost passed out on my birthday last year in 2019. And that song came on and I just remember belting that song so loud and crying. And now, a few months ago, now that I'm in remission, I played that song again and it just like brought me back to all of those feelings. Like I will be okay. Everything, the song is just so beautiful. And I don't know, I feel like it's just such a good song to, things are dark right now, but they won't be forever.
Right. Yes, that's right. There's always that rainbow at the end of the tunnel, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, I completely agree. They won't always be dark. There's always hope. Mm-hmm. And never lose hope.
Right.
So how can we follow your journey?
So I am on Instagram. My handle is @journey2limitless_. I know you'll probably put that in the show notes.
Yes.
But I'm on there. And then I have a podcast as well. So it's Journey to Limitless podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But those are the two ways to keep up with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being brave and sharing your story with us. And we wish you good luck with everything.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm really pumped about it. So thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode inspired you. If you like this podcast, please share on social media and tag me on Instagram @TheBraveandHer. I would love to hear your stories of bravery.